Get my 6. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the most awesome homesteading channel on the internet that has absolutely nothing to do with homesteading. Homesteading off the grid. What a beautiful trail there, isn't it? All fall-like because it is fall. You see some goldenrod there and some all kinds of other stuff that you only see in the fall. It's beautiful, isn't it? The leaves have started to change. And this path leads directly to the forest that may or may not be haunted behind my home, where there may or may not be a potential Bigfoot Sasquatch living, among other things. Let's go find out. Oh, it sure is beautiful here, isn't it? So we're going to keep getting my 6. Look behind me. We're going to do things kind of old school today. I haven't done this in a while. This is how we used to do things around here. So it's October 6th, and yes, I've got another October night story for you. But this is one that didn't make the cut, not because it wasn't good enough, but because we didn't have it yet. Look at this. Isn't this beautiful? Absolutely gorgeous. I love fall. You see the setting sun back there? You hear that? There's some whooping. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Hear that? It's coming from directly in front of us in the woods. A warning, perhaps, that we're approaching? Let's go find out. So, it's not that this story I'm going to tell you here this evening isn't good enough. I think you'll agree with me that it very much is. It's just that we didn't have it submitted to us in time from the viewer who has asked to remain anonymous as we tell it in time to publish it in True Hauntings Volume 4. So it certainly is going to go in True Hauntings Volume 5. I think you'll agree with me that it's definitely printable worthy. So the gentleman, who I think would not mind if I let you know that he lives in a very rural area in Georgia, sent a fascinating story. It's kind of sad, kind of heartbreaking, but eerie nonetheless. So basically, and this guy, he's about my age, about 50. And when he was 12, his mother was killed in a tragic auto accident. She was hit by a semi, a commercial truck that just blatantly ran through like a 4-way stop out in the middle of very rural Georgia. No one around. You know, it wasn't too late. It was like, it was in the fall. It was actually in October, ironically. It was after 8, so it would have been dark. Very desolate, secluded road. He ran through a 4-way, going way over the speeding limit, and this guy's mother was coming home from work, and she had stopped, and she started going, and the trucker's lights were not even on. Hold on now, we've reached the edge of the woods, so you make sure to see if you see anything back there. I just thought I heard a tree knock or something. So she stops at the 4-way. Coast is clear, so she thought. She takes off, and then bam, here comes this big commercial trucker without his headlights or anything on, smashes right into the side of her car. She was killed instantly, so the coroner said. If there is any silver lining on this story, it's that she didn't suffer. But to make matters even worse, the trucker just kept going. So he would eventually get caught. The guy didn't go into the specifics of how they were able to catch him. But it turns out he was shit-faced drunk. So driving down the road in the dark, headlights off, speeding, blowing through 4-way stop signs and drunk. And he killed this woman. Terrible, tragic story. Well, it was a major commercial shipping company, and the guy's father, of course, and I don't blame him, filed a wrongful death suit against the corporation, and they won. And they won big. They won a lot of money. I'll hunker down here for a minute. Let's do a scan and see what you may or may not see. This is where we pick up all kinds of, this is where I usually tell the stories from the woods, so have a look. I tell you, the closer we get to Halloween, the more this veil thins. You never know what might make an appearance. So, I thought that was a growl, but that was a car from a very distant highway. A lot of the vertically challenged individuals who live under bridges like to say, you can't be too secluded. You live right beside a highway. You can hear the cars. Noise carries so much out in the country. No. So anyway, they won a lot of money. And this guy's mother, the guy that sent me the story, she had always had this fantasy of having, there was a property in their community, out in this very rural community. It's the type of place where, you only see a house like every 3 or 4 miles. And there was this one old house in particular that was abandoned, decrepit. It was time for it to go, but the property was beautiful. She always wanted to own it. So out of in the honor of her memory, the family ended up using the part of the major amount of money they got to buy this land. Now, and they did this to honor this guy's deceased mother, the husband's deceased wife. They built a beautiful new home, and they first looked at attempting to renovate or upgrade the one that was there, but it was like my house, more than 130 years old, but it had not been kept up, whereas ours has. Ours is actually still in wonderful shape. This one was too far gone to be saved, so they tore it down and they built a new house about 50 yards away because it was on a beautiful spot. And this is important to note. He said in his email, and it's an important part of the story, that when they tore it down all the way down to the basement. And then with the basement, they just filled it in with fill dirt. And they turned that into part of the yard. So they built this beautiful new house on this property that the poor lady that lost her life due to a drunk driver in a commercial truck had always wanted. And it had a basement, and they finished the basement, but nobody really used it, and maybe for the first year or so. But once, the guy, he sent me the story, he was 12 when his mom died. When he was about 14 or 15, he and his friends started using the basement more. It was like, the guys hang out. And he said they would have sleepovers down there, and they would be laying on the ground, they'd have sleeping bags, and it sounded as if somebody was banging on something beneath them, like underneath the floor of the basement. And at first they thought it was pipes, but it wasn't, because where the banging was coming from, there had been no pipes ran. There were no pipes down there. So then the guy, and this is kind of like a romantic idea, and I get this, after having suffered a tragedy like that, he felt as if, and the rest of the family felt as if, his mother was trying to communicate with them from the other side. So they brought in a medium, and it was a woman, and they had a seance in the basement, and she told them, she says, there are 3 presences here, 3, but none of them are your mother. Somebody's trapped, and that's all she got out of it. Somebody's trapped. So they never really thought much more of it than that. They continued to hear the tappings, and then about a year after this started, they started to notice that it was as if part of their yard in front of their house that led to where the original house had stood was starting to sink in, almost as if there was a septic pipe going through there, and it had given in, the top of it had caved in, and the top of it had caved in, and so the ground starts going in with it. So they hired an excavation crew to come out and dig it up, thinking it was a busted septic pipe, maybe something, a remnant from the old house. What they found was that it was a bunker tunnel. So the people who at one point had lived in the original house had gone down into their basement and dug a 50-yard long tunnel to an underground bunker. So they found the bunker, and they went in there, and what they found were the skeletal remains of 3 people, 2 women and 1 man, all adults, and like a ton of empty, like, non-perishable goods cans, like the kind of stuff preppers would keep, you know, waiting for the World War VI or whatever it is. So they did a little bit of talking around, and they found that there was a story somewhere in the 1940s, 1950s, during, you know, the Cold War era, when a lot of people were going around building bunkers. All they could find out was that there was a family living in that house who everybody in the community kind of figured to be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and then all of a sudden they just weren't around anymore. The family had owned the house, so they didn't, you know, no mortgage payments were missed or anything, but they stopped paying taxes. And so somebody else after that went in and bought the property simply by going down to the courthouse and paying the personal property taxes due on it. And then they would, of course, go, I just swallowed a bug. I didn't want you to see me sticking my finger down my throat to get the bug out of the side of my throat. Sorry if that's TMI. But, so anyway, it appears as if these 3 cuckoo for Cocoa Puff prepper types went into their bunker, and as best as anybody could conjure, the tunnel leading to the bunker did cave in and did give way, and they stayed down there until and consumed all of their non-perishables until, unfortunately, they were out, and then they perished. And then this guy that sent me this email, 3/4 of a century later, well, no, this has been half a century later, he and his buddies heard the tapping from underneath the floor from 3 lost souls asking for help, trying to get out. Half a century too late. So let me know if you saw anything following us. Yeah, I stopped here for a reason. I see that too. How could you not? Hope you enjoyed this creepy tale, perfect for a Halloween night, for an October night. Come back and visit us more tomorrow on the most popular homesteading channel on the internet that has absolutely nothing to do with homesteading. Homesteading off the grid. We'll see you then. Yeah, go ahead and say goodbye to our little friend. See him? He thought I stopped recording. You hear him walking?